Hey, Brandon Mileski, Pat Micheletti. It's our final installment of our Vision for the Division series right here on MINI BTP. We'll actually get back to longer Beyond the Pods as we move along here as well, Pat. But our final team in the Central Division, we're going to the top from last year's standings, and we are going to talk about the Colorado Avalanche today, Pat. Colorado last year, I guess when you look at all the health issues they had last year to still win the division with 109 points, I guess still an impressive regular season.
Yeah.
But clearly disappointing after winning the cup the year before. They lose to the Seattle Kraken in the first round. And obviously their core is still there. The big names are still there, but they made a lot of changes this offseason.
Well, think back about when they won. We talked about strength up the middle, and their number one and number two were McKinnon and Kadri, and that's changed over the past couple of years. You hit it right on the head with their core players are there. With McKinnon and Makar and Nishushkin and Rantanen, guys like that. That's pretty good. Devin Taves back on D. So they're a team that you can never say, they're going to be maybe a little down this year, because when you have players like that, you're in pretty good shape. Now it's just the other parts of their team. How are they going to be? That will be the key for me.
You look at a lot of the changes they made, Pat, and I've referenced this a bunch with you before, that the Chicago Blackhawks in their heyday, when they had Kane and Taves, they would have players on their line that would probably perform better than they normally would just because they were playing with Kane and Taves, right? And then they get big money and they go elsewhere and they can't perform as well elsewhere. And I feel like Colorado made some savvy moves this offseason because they got some guys that have some talent, but maybe have had a down year or so. But now they're bringing them in at a value, right? You look at Ryan Johansson from Nashville. Johansson was always one of their top forwards. Just 12 goals, 16 assists last year, just 28 points in 55 games, had some injury issues. But now you bring in him at half the salary. So you're bringing him in at $4 million for the next 2 years, and a guy who could fit in your top six and play with your probably won't play with McKinnon as much being another center, but he can play with Nishushkin and Rantanen, and if Landeskog ever gets healthy, right? And he's going to be put up in a better situation to succeed here, I think, than he has, and you're getting him at a fraction of the price.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, he can be, pretty dynamic. Again, not a great skater. This Colorado team is going to be a little bit different. Yeah, they'll still have their speed, but they won't have that. Remember watching them and how lightning fast they were and how they came at you in waves. And it was just like, oh my gosh, how do you stop this team? So they're going to be a little bit different, because Johansson is a center that can really pass the puck. He doesn't have great speed, but he's a really smart player. He'll probably be your number two center, having McKinnon, Johansson 1 and 2. I think there'll be a lot of pressure on Johansson to take some of the pressure off of the McKinnon line. So, that he'll be an interesting watch. And at $4 million, that's a pretty good gamble for them.
Well, and I thought they made a lot of good value gambles in this offseason, right? Because you have McKinnon making $12 million plus.
Yeah,
Makar is making 9 plus, which is actually a bargain for him, but still, it's still a lot of money tied up in your cap. Rantanen's making $9 million. Like, this is not a franchise that can just be flush with cash. Yet Johansson at $4 million is a good deal. Jonathan Drouin, Pat, I know this is a guy that was thought of to be, you never accomplished what was expected out of him, but a guy that is going to be making just over $800,000 this year on a 1-year deal. He's still just 27 years old, and he's going to be put in a situation where he's going to have scores around him.
Yes.
Like, I think that could be a steal for them. Even Tatar, they signed for $1.5 million. He scored 20 goals last season in New Jersey, and they got him for $1.5 million. I just think, and a lot of this is when you have those big stars and you can win a cup, and I think these guys know, hey, I can go there for a year, put up big stats, and get a big payday elsewhere. I just think they had a great offseason, Pat.
Yeah, and one more guy we can add to it is Miles Wood. I played with his father when we were both rookies. He was in the Islanders organization, and he plays a lot like his father. Very hard-nosed, good defensively, big, won't back down from anybody. So, they get him on the cheap also. So
for
that's
6 years.
Yeah.
6 years and $2.5 million a year.
Yeah. And so, that's a team that has new faces. They lose Eric Johnson, who I think is a heart and soul guy, who I think is really going to help the Buffalo Sabres. But, it's still, again, with their core in place, they're going to be right at or near the top.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to think of the Eric Johnson loss, just because he's seemingly never healthy.
Yeah.
But they do have some smaller players on the blue line. Obviously, they do have Josh Manson back, but they are going to lose a lot of size, and you never know in a playoff series if you get up against a big team, what kind of effect that could have.
Yeah, injuries on the back end could really, you got to keep an eye on that, because Makar, he gets dinged up a little bit also, and who's the other guy I'm thinking of? The young Byram, who's really talented, but he's had a history of injuries. So, their back end is something to keep an eye on, because they're not the biggest group back there, and when you're not big, you're going to get hit and get hit a lot. So that will be one of the keys if that group can stay healthy. And then there's Georgiev in the net, who, the questions were out there last year. Can he be a number one guy? Well, he proved it last year. And can he back that up this year? I think will be, something to keep an eye on also.
And obviously, Gabriel Landeskog, he was placed on long-term injured reserve, which is part of the reason they were able to go out and make some of these signings, because that's $7 million off the books. But could they end up pulling off a Tampa Bay or Vegas where Landeskog comes back for the playoffs and that $7 million is just a free player?
They hope so. His knee is pretty bad from, what people are saying. And, me with my history of knees, it's not an easy thing. And so I think they hope that will be the case, because again, with Landeskog, he's the guy that everyone hates, right? He's that menace.
Agitator.
Fans hate him, but every team in the league would take him. That's a big loss for that team. And I think it showed a little bit last year when they were playing Seattle in that first round. They could have really used a guy like Gabe Landeskog in their lineup, in Game 7 there. So that will be something to keep an eye on.
Hey, calling all you beer league beauties out there, this season Michelob Golden Light is giving everyday hockey players the chance to check off a bucket list dream. That would be sponsorship. After all, why should only the pros get brand deals? Mick Golden is looking for adult hockey players of every skill level to make their case for sponsorship and potentially win great prizes like custom merch, jerseys, and cold hard cash. For more information, visit goldenlight.michelobultra.com. That's goldenlight.michelobultra.com. A couple more losses, pretty minor losses, Pat, but still, when you lose some depth pieces, JT Comfort and Darren Helm gone. I know Helm was getting up there in age, but I always liked him as especially a speed guy who could kill penalties for you.
Yeah, that's part of the element that we talked about. They're not going to be as quick, as fast, as smothering as they were a year ago, because they lose guys like that. So they bring in a guy like Miles Wood, who he's that guy that he can still skate, but he brings something different to the table. So we're going to see out of that third and fourth line, more pluggers, if you will, and it may be, it'll take probably some time for them to get going, but I think depth wise, we'll see if they're better than they were a year ago.
It sounds like your dog really likes the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, Casey has been telling me, let me talk. You can talk. Casey is still picking the Dallas Stars.
I was going to say, what's your prediction for the Colorado Avalanche this
year? I think Colorado is going to be awfully good. I think, Brandon, a lot is going to be on their health, because with all of the big contracts that they have and the depth that they have throughout, down in the minor league system, I don't think it's as strong as other organizations, just based on the fact that they spent.
They got your guy Ben Myers still.
that Ben, he might be their fourth line center, and they need him to emerge. And so, but I think they'll be right up there, them or Dallas, to win the division.
I am going to predict the Colorado Avalanche will make it back to the Stanley Cup Finals again this year. I think they'll be the best team in the Western Conference and make a return. That core is just too good, and you mentioned it. They were that good last year without having the health on their side. If they get any health luck, I think Johansson and Drouin are going to have bounce back years this year.
Well,
right,
it'll be fun. We'll see who's right, you or I.
All right, that's it for our vision for the division series. We'll get back into more Wild-related chatter and start talking a little more college hockey next week on Beyond the Pod.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, he's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been another episode of Mini BTP. We are done with our vision for the division series. You can listen to all of our episodes on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch them on the KFN YouTube channel. We'll talk to you next week right here on Beyond the Pod.